But let's jump into it. Buying your first investment property, the things to consider when you want to do it. Number one, most important thing, financing. You want to get your financing in order. The reason being, this is your first investment property. It's a lot different than qualifying for just a primary residence. So you're going to look at certain things where you're going to have to do at least 20% down when you purchase it. In some cases, you might need more depending what kind of lender you work with. As well, you might be looking at a higher interest rate. One thing to consider when you're purchasing a property, if it's a pre-existing rental property and the tenants are in there, the bank will actually use the income from that property to help you qualify for the mortgage. You also want to consider that this is going to be a long-term investment. You're not looking at doing this for 1, 2, 3 years and flipping it, 5 years and flipping it. I would not go into it with that mindset. The way you get the real value out of these properties is by holding on to them long-term. Me personally, the properties that I have, I want to hang on to until they're completely paid off, and then the monthly rent that comes in, that's my income in my retirement, because I don't have a retirement plan or a pension or anything like that. So this is sort of going to be my income when I don't feel like selling houses, in my 60s. So that's one thing to consider. Consider long-term investment. Also know that you have to have some people skills if you're going to be renting a property out. The biggest reason is you're going to be dealing with, tenants. These are real people, and I like to treat them just as customers as I do in business and provide tremendous customer service for them to make sure they have everything they need, make them feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, it is their house. You are providing shelter for somebody, so you do have a responsibility to treat them fairly. I think, you hear these horror stories of landlords and, you've heard the bad stories, I'm sure. You don't want to be one of those landlords. Your first investment property, it's not like you have 50 properties that things fall through the crack. You should have the time available to get to know your tenants, to be able to deal with them appropriately and all the situations, and just kind of have that good relationship. So people skills are important as well. You want to know that you're responsible for upkeep of the property. So this is where we're going to talk about in the next section of the type of properties, but you are going to be responsible for the upkeep. If you own a property and this is your first investment, so now this is your second property, you now generally have to maintain 2 houses. If that's what you're buying as a house or something, you have to maintain 2 properties. So consider that. If you already find maintaining 1 property a lot of work, you might not want, investments might not be for you, because now you're dealing with another property that you're going to have to deal with, which means you're dealing with, 2 roofs, 2 sets of windows, 2 furnaces, 2 air conditions. So that's something to consider as well. And know that things are going to break down. There's going to be a lot of unforeseen expenses. So keep that into consideration. Unfortunately, your furnace will break. You can't just tell it to keep working. You might have to replace it. Get a leak in the roof. One unfortunate one that I had a raccoon get into the attic. So that cost me about $600 just for them to get the raccoons out, put the one-way door or whatever they do to get them out and keep them out. So that's just an unexpected expense. Something like that could pop up, so be prepared for it. If you have more questions about whether it's the financing or what you should consider before purchasing a property, drop a comment below. I'd love to answer it.